We are at the start of the 2019 Carnivorous Championship that is held at Loskop Dam in Mpumalanga province. With its stretch of over 30 kilometers, Loskop Dam was considered the best venue to host this event. With 27 species of fish spread all over the 248 million cubic meters of water, its deep impoundment and its notorious aquatic vegetation, it was ample reason to clinch Loskop for the hosting of this prestigious event. This FIPS ED facet, locally known as SALA, the South African Art Lure Angling Association, is hosting 16 countries this year. Each country enrolled one team, with each team consisting of 4 anglers, with 2 anglers per boat. With 64 anglers and 32 boats on the water, everyone was getting ready for the start of this esteemed event. This year saw 2 new countries participating, Croatia and the neighbouring country Namibia, who already had a fair bit of knowledge of South African waters. With skippers and boats provided by South Africa, the tournament was divided into 2 groups. Group A consisting of faster boats, followed with a 5-minute delay by the slower Group B. Outboard motors on the boats varying from 115 horsepower right up to 350 horsepower. Each country had to draw a boat number from both Group A and Group B. The teams were then introduced to their skippers for the day. The anglers then familiarized themselves with the boat and the space that will be utilized for the whole day. A skippers meeting was held and the last bit of information was shared to ensure that this event will run smoothly. The skippers, who also acted as stewards on the respective boats, played a crucial role during this tournament. South Africa and Namibia were the only countries who had international stewards assigned to their boats, ensuring that the host and neighbouring country don't have an unfair advantage. The South African Police's water wing ensured that all anglers were safe for the full duration of this tournament. With spirits high, the tournament got on its way. Prior to this event, the competitors was allowed 2 days of practice, familiarizing themselves with the conditions, for Loskop can become a very temperamental dam. On any given day, the dam can be on fire and the next day it's dead. Since the dam is located in the mountain area, the weather plays a mammoth role, for Loskop can become a volatile place to fish. With Group A's boats ready at the starting line, the siren went off and the skippers darted off to the spots requested by the anglers. Five minutes later, Group B took off, with most anglers staying close to the bank of the launching area. The first fish of the tournament went to Hungary. With the fish on, they didn't even have time to assemble the landing net, nor time to take off their life jackets. One of the rules stated that all fish need to be landed by making use of a landing net. Throughout this World Championships, strict rules were implemented to ensure the conservation of all fish, and this event were no exception. Thus, lip landing or flipping a fish onto the boat was strictly prohibited. After the fish has been measured, it's released back safely into the drink. The total length of the fish is tallied on the scorecard by the skipper and then verified by the angler. Newcomers Croatia found themselves in the midst of some action where they landed some beautiful fish. According to the rules of the championships, all fish must be measured, as points are scored by the length and not the mass. The process unfortunately leaves very little time for any photos of the catches, as anglers measure and release their fish very quickly with a common team strategy of not allowing opposing competitors to see what they are catching. Getting the line in the water as soon as possible is crucial, but for Croatia, the moment was too big and a photo had to be taken. Unfortunately for the Croatia team, the length of some of their fish did not measure up and could not be scored, and all fish not meeting the criteria gets released straight away. Here's a list of some target species in Loskop Dam and the minimum sizes for each species. The blue kerper and the red breast kerper needs to have a minimum length of 25 centimeters. This also applies to silver catfish, also known as mackerel. Yellowfish, papermouth and all black bass needs to be 30 centimeters. And the barbel or catfish must be at least 50 centimeters to be scored. Because the scoring involves only the length of the fish, barbel and tigerfish is arguably the most targeted fish when it comes to carnivorous angling on local water. Taking a look at the angler's setup, carnivorous angling normally involves fishing with light tackle, small spinning reels and finesse type lures. Generally, fish are caught with smaller hooks. No live bait is allowed and the anglers only make use of artificial lures. Hard plastics are without a doubt some of the anglers' favorite lures, and the smaller lures are deadly for species like yellowfish, kerper and the smaller barbel. Crankbaits, diving lures and small poppers can wreak havoc as well. Occasionally it might be worth the effort to gear up and throw some bigger lures to see if there are any fish that will be prepared to take the lure. Papermouth and large-scale yellowfish can be very greedy when feeding on the plastics, and they will have no problem hitting a lure half their size. One rule of great significance, and one that's the least adhered to, is that boats need to be 50 meters or casting distance apart from each other. In this case, there was a dispute between the team from Hungary and another team who was first on the specific spot. Claiming a hotspot can become a sensitive and problematic issue. If the issue is not resolved between the anglers, a tournament jury member steps in and resolves the issue, giving a yellow card to the infringing team, and in this case it was resolved after the team from Hungary rightfully claimed their spot first, sending the other team to pick a new spot. After all the drama, Hungary was rewarded with a beautiful bass, but unfortunately it did not measure up. The end of day one, and the competition drew to an end. All the anglers headed back to the bank, where they got a chance to talk about their day on the water. While they had time to relax, the scores were tallied and the results posted. The penalty point system works as follows. At the end of the day, the scores are worked out. The winning team gets 1 penalty point, the second place gets 2 penalty points, the third 3, and the 10th place gets 10 penalty points. On the second day, the same applies. The penalty points are accumulated over 2 days, and the team with the lowest penalty points wins. The result of day 1 is as follows. In third place, we saw Russia with 17 fish and 15 penalty points. In the second place, we saw Hungary with 22 fish and 11 penalty points. And dominating on day 1 was Czech Republic with 31 fish and 7 penalty points. During this event, a beautiful display was put up for both spectators and participants. It was a good time for the teams to familiarize themselves with some of the species not native to their country. Day 2 and everyone were well rested and eager to get onto the water. Hosting an event like this takes an extreme amount of man-hours. In this case, Margriet Coetzee, chairperson of SALA and the local organizing committee, took on this behemoth task. A year and a half prior to this championship, the planning of this event was already in motion. Boats, skippers and accommodation are just some of the things that need to be organized. Without sponsors, an event like this will never see the light of day. With all the skippers and anglers getting ready, it was time to fish. On day 2, the group swapped, with Group B darting off to their spots, and soon after, Group A followed. A lot of boats stayed close to the bank, but then all hell broke loose. An array of anglers wanted to fish the same spot. With a rule that states that all boats need to be 50 meters apart, a huge dispute erupted and everyone was vexed. To the amusement of the spectators on the bank, the tension on the water rose and mounted to the point where a jury member had to step in to solve the dispute and realized that whoever was there first was pretty much moot. With the countries shouting at one another in their mother tongue, things were literally lost in translation. After a while, the culprits were pointed out and a few yellow cards were promptly handed out by the officials. Emotions settled and the fishing commenced. Between all the fuss, Croatia managed to pull out a non-measurable bass. It is not uncommon for carnivorous anglers to anchor their boat and spend a fair amount of time in one spot, especially if the angler identified an area that holds fish. Hungary got one on the hook, and with this fish, they managed to be the first team on the scoreboard on day 2. end of a very successful tournament, the teams gathered on the bank and shared their stories. We are at the prize-giving ceremony, and the spirits of the anglers were still high as they reflected on the competition. With some entertainment in the true South African fashion, the prize-giving commenced. Margriet Coetzee opened the ceremony.
I'd like to give a big thank you to SIPS and FIPS for giving Carnivorous from both South Africa, but especially South Africa as a whole, the opportunity to host an event like this. Be assured that this will not be the last time that South Africa will host the championships. We've gained a lot of experience, and more so through Predator from both championships. Looking back at where we have started with this championship, I can assure you that it was not always easy. It's a very difficult discipline to manage. It's not only anglers, it's boats, it's skippers, it's stewards, it's a lot of things. But in the end of the day, it was an enormous pleasure and privilege to be part of this whole experience. Something any one of you can consider in future.
The final result of the pairs saw Romania's Andrei Spiak and Adrian Emil taking third place with a total of 92 fish and a penalty point of 14. In the second place we saw Jacob Kula and Jan Hupka from Czech Republic A, taking the silver medal with a fish count of 94 and was awarded 7 penalty points. The gold medal went to the brothers David and Thomas Kodelka from Czech Republic B with a respectable fish count of 105. With a penalty point of only 6, it was more than enough to secure a well-deserved first place. The team result saw South Africa just missing 4th place, which belonged to Romania. The 3rd place went to a very strong Namibian team with a total of 73 fish, a well-deserved bronze for the newcomers. The 2nd place went to Hungary with a total of 75 fish. The Czech Republic secured 1st place with a staggering fish count of 199, making it the most fish caught in a World Championship in this event. Congratulations to everyone involved in the organizing of this amazing event. The amount of man hours, the sponsors, and the love for the sport made it an event to remember.